Okay, this is Ring Wraps for Pep Talk UK. I'm very honored to be joined by the co-host of the fight with Teddy Atlas, Mr. Ken Rideout. How we doing, Ken?
What's up, Raps? How you doing?
I'm good, man. We've been having some LA weather here in London. It's been high 90s in your language. It's been up there, so you know.
Not in LA, my boy. It never gets over 80 and sunny here on the beach.
Well, you've got that sea breeze. We've got pollution and traffic.
I lived in London for 2 years. I know it very well.
Oh, really? Where did you live, Ken?
Kensington, the American ghetto.
Yeah. Oh, so were you at the Richmond University?
No. I worked in finance. I worked at Kenner Fitzgerald for 2 years in like the early 2000s.
Cool, man. Cool. So you know the town. You know the town.
Very well.
Well,
I used to be the informal mayor of London.
Oh, well, you're welcome back anytime, Ken. We need all the help we can get. It's a mess over here. So
I'm gonna put a picture up in the background of me and my uncle Tony while I was over there.
Okay.
We'll see if you recognize him.
Big T. I'm guessing it's the controversial Tony.
We'll see. So what's cracking?
A lot's cracking, man. I mean, not physically, but there's a lot of things unfolding in the world of boxing. Let's dive straight in with the big one. Lomachenko Lopez. Finally seems like it got signed off. Good news.
Let's go. Who do you like?
Oh, man. This is a fighter's fight. I love both guys, but, you know, I'm a fan of your show. I know the due diligence everybody should pay Lomachenko. Us Brits are huge fans of Vasily as well. But I like Lopez. He's got a certain energy. I think Lopez will bring it. I think Loma will win. But I don't rule Lopez out 100%.
I would agree. I would agree with your summation. Lopez has looked very. Oh, there's my Uncle Tony Blair.
Nice time.
For all my British fans who might not know how much we love them.
Oh no,
That's how we do it.
We know.
That's how we're doing it here. I agree with your summation. I think that at times Lopez against the Japanese fighter, was it Tanaka? He didn't look his best, but like they say, styles make fights. And then he came back against Richard Comey and looked like a world beater. And I think that he's going up. I think is the best fighter in the world at any weight. The two-time Olympic gold medalist and holder of multiple division world titles, Vasily Lomachenko. I favor Lomachenko in that fight. I think there's a reason he gave up $800,000+ to make the fight happen. I think he's going to win.
I mean, it's good news for boxing fans. It's good news for Top Rank and ESPN. This was one of the biggest fights on the calendar of the boxing year that's been messed up like everything else this year. Where do you see the victor going from here? Because it depends. Each guy has different weight issues.
Well, when we interviewed Lomachenko, he said he's probably at the heaviest he can fight at. So I can't see him going heavier than this, but I don't know what's left for him to do at this point. I mean, if you've seen him in person, he's not a very big guy. I do think at 135, he's pretty stretched. If he got to 140, I'd be shocked, but I just don't know what the motivation would be to get to 140. I mean, he's basically cleaned out all the other divisions. I don't know. And I think for Lopez, though, he's a young guy, and I could see him moving up, comfortably moving up to 140, but TBD.
If Loma wins, as we both suspect, we've mentioned that he caps out at 135. He's probably pushing it even there. Obviously, 135 is the division that's stacked with young lions. Devin Haney, Teofimo, Ryan Garcia, and potentially soon Tank, officially. Are any of those fights worthy if somebody has a quote-unquote belt for Loma to unify all of the belts?
I don't know if worthy is the right word, but I can tell you that they're the only other game in town. So I don't know who else he'd fight but those guys. But I don't think that Ryan Garcia will have a good test against Luke Campbell. I think if he can stop Luke Campbell, he has an argument to be made to fight Loma, since Loma went the distance with Luke, and actually Luke had moments looking really good early. Loma just wore him down and outclassed him. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Devin Haney, I'd like to see him in there with someone that is something more than just an opponent. Same with Tank.
Yeah, I mean, that's what sets Teofimo above the other potential up-and-comers for me, the fact that he dispatched of Comey and looked good doing it. If Junior loses to Loma, but loses well, is it kind of like a learning fight on his resume? Kind of like when Canelo took on Whyte early?
I would say so. I mean, that's the only way to get better, is to fight guys that are ultimately better than you. There's so much emphasis placed on the having an undefeated record, but I admire Teofimo Lopez at this age to get in there with Lomachenko. I know he's been stalking him for several years. I mean, I was at the fight when Loma beat up Anthony Crawler, and poor Teofimo was there trying to jump in the ring, get in the ring, and basically the establishment just ignored him, which was kind of funny. As he was standing in the ring waiting to be announced, and they just basically, Lomachenko didn't even acknowledge him. But credit to Lopez for going after the top dog and wanting to get in there early with Lomachenko. Lomachenko, I think he's a killer. I mean, if you just look at his footwork and his movement, he's awesome. I mean, even his first loss in his second pro fight for a world title, I mean, he lost a split decision. The guy is just, in there against a wily veteran in his second pro fight ever.
For sure. I think it was a bit of naivety transitioning into the pro game and a few roughhouse tactics in that fight as well. So,
Yeah, I don't think that Teofimo was naive at all. I think he knew what he was getting into. He just maybe underestimated how gritty that old veteran was. But the guy is very, very intelligent and has looked awesome since then.
Yeah, agreed. I'm with you. On any day, I split hairs between him and Crawford for the most talented fighters. I have Canelo as the best CV accomplished fighter, but those three are the best three in the world for me.
I would agree. Although I'd say Canelo has a loss against Triple G. Maybe I would say he's probably 0-1-1 against Triple G, and I have no bias against either one of them. I mean, I know Triple G and I like him, but fight is a fight. I try to look at it unbiased, but I don't see how you can say that he didn't win that first fight against Canelo. But
absolutely, he did. I mean, that's up there along with Fury Wilder 1 as well as like OMG kind of decisions.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Lopez Loma ticked off. I'm looking forward to that fight. That's my favorite fight of the year. Another big mouth-watering matchup is Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Swift Garcia. I know you guys have gone into detail pre and post Errol's incident with the car accident. He looks in shape now. We won't know, right? The litmus test is coming. What does Danny bring to the party, and what Errol are you expected to turn up?
I think that Danny brings experience and toughness, that's for sure. Errol Spence, prior to his accident, I would have give a huge edge to, but given the fact that Errol Spence was just in a very traumatic car accident with facial injuries, I'm going to say that there's who knows? This thing could go either way. Danny Garcia is no pushover, and he's not a punk. He's coming to fight. Sean Porter gave what's his name? Spence. Was it Porter who fought Spence last before his accident? Yes. Yeah, and I think a lot of people had Errol winning that going away prior to the fight, but Jesus, Sean Porter showed up to fight and had other ideas. So, like they say, styles make fights. So I mean, Errol Spence should win based on their skill sets, but who knows? With all that's gone on, I just don't know. Danny's getting a little bit older. He's been in some battles, but
yeah,
I don't have a strong opinion there.
I mean, Danny's two losses of note were like razor thin. The Keith Thurman fight was a modern classic in the 147. And the Sean Porter fight was another war. So we know what Danny can do. You said he's durable, he's tough. My thing is with Errol, he admitted that he wasn't living the life, which culminated in his, you know, his reckless car accident and whatnot. Thank God he walked away and lived to tell the tale, let alone box. But I was when I watched back on the recent fights with Porter and Mikey Garcia, I was still shocked to see how weight drained Errol was coming in against Mikey, who's a tiny guy. He's a 140 fighter, really. And Errol was like, you know, he literally, they said he like shed 25 pounds in 48 hours. I mean.
Yeah, have you ever seen Errol Spence between fights?
Huge.
He's a big dude.
Huge.
He's a really big guy. But, you know, I think that there's, you can't overlook the fact that when you're that successful and that young and have all that money, how easy it is to just get caught up and live in that party lifestyle. And who knows, maybe this car accident was a wake-up call for him and he comes back with a renewed sense of focus and blast Danny right out of there. But that being said, I wouldn't bet heavily on a stoppage either way. I think this one's going to be a war. And, I mean, Errol might have come in looking drawn against Mikey Garcia, but he beat the crap out of him. Mikey Garcia was way out of his depth there, but not just with size, but just with skill set. I mean, Errol looked great. Mikey looked terrible. Mikey's a good fighter. So I don't know. That's an interesting fight. I'm looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Well, you mentioned the KO. Danny's never been knocked out. So, you know, if anything, if Errol does do that and stops him, post-accident, comeback fight, no warm-up, that's a huge statement. Huge statement.
For sure. But I think whoever wins, it's going to be a big statement. I don't know how far that gets us towards seeing the fight that everyone wants to see, which is Spence and Crawford. That's like a whole nother conversation that has nothing to do with talent and skill set.
Well, Ken, if you could just kind of segue into that and then maybe do a U-turn and bring it back around and mention Pacquiao with the other belt, if we could discuss that triangle of belts at the minute.
In what regard?
So Errol holds 2 belts, WBC, IBF.
Yeah.
Crawford, who you mentioned, who's kind of like the elephant in the room, he holds the WBO. And the last belt is with Pac-Man, right? WBA.
Yeah.
So absolutely the most anticipated fight on the planet is Errol and Bud.
Yeah, I wasn't even considering the belts when I just think about the top dogs in that division. I think of Spence and Crawford. Pacquiao's always there. I mean, he's like 65 years old now. He seems to be getting younger with age. He seems to be on the right nutritional supplements to keep him young. He gets stronger every time. He walks right through punches. You know, when I look at Pacquiao walking through those punches, I think about Roy Jones getting touched on the chin and getting laid out stiff as a board. And I just wonder if he had the same supplements and nutritional plan as Pacquiao, if he might have been able to absorb those punches. So, look, Pacquiao is one of the best fighters that's ever lived, no question about it. But I just have a hard time accepting a guy being that old and being that shop worn. The guy's been in wars for years. I mean, I feel like it was like 15 years ago that he was knocked out cold, and he's still beating up the best guys in the division. I don't know.
I was there, Ken. I was there. He's my favorite fight. I was 2012, MGM. He's winning the fight, pressuring Marquez.
8 years ago, Roy Jones got knocked out once, and then he got knocked out like every other outing, it seemed like. Manny Pacquiao seems to be reversing the aging spectrum. So, you know, that being said, like I said, taking another away from his skill sets, he seems to have found like a durability gene that many fighters don't have as they get aged. But so Pacquiao aside, I say Crawford and Spence are the 2 kings of the division. I think Pacquiao gives either one of them a hard time, and it wouldn't shock me to see him beat anybody. Although, I mean, I guess it would shock me if he could beat Crawford or Spence, but he's a tough dude. I mean, it's just, he's like the wild card of the division for me.
What do you think about, you said it without saying it, about the wrong teams with Crawford being stuck out on an island with Top Rank as far as 147 is concerned? How does he somehow maneuver his way into a fight? I mean, what happens? I mean, is there anything that can happen?
I think he's at the mercy of the PBC. They'll get to him when they get to him. I don't think he has a lot of leverage. I mean, He's got to fight guys like Mean Machine, although Mean Machine had moments looking good against him. I would argue that Mean Machine lost his last fight out in Philly against I'm spacing on the dude's name, but I'll think of it in a second. Kid from Philadelphia at the 2000 arena.
It's eluding me as well.
Right. Anyway, I think Crawford's got to take what he can get at this point. I think he's growing frustrated. I think if Spence looks good against Danny, that fight gets made. Personally.
So if there's a KO, maybe spectacular fashion, Crawford. And the weird thing about Bud, right? He doesn't mouth off on the camera, but if you ever follow him on his like social media stuff, he seems to have a lot more vibrancy and outwards to his personality. But when he's in interviews and he's very courteous and prim and proper, he doesn't say much.
Maybe someone else is running his social media.
Potentially. I mean, you spoke about Lopez Jr. earlier and being frustrated by the Loma camp, but he had Senior going crazy, causing all ripple effects everywhere, right? So he's like blockbuster effect. So I don't know. There were whispers about Crawford fighting Manny in like the Middle East. Have you heard anything about that?
No.
Okay.
I mean whispers. Yeah. I guess if someone puts up enough money, people will do anything. Yeah. Like Joshua and Ruiz fighting in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
That has its own diplomatic challenges.
Well, there's, obviously with we're that much closer to the UAE because of time zone difference with the US. We're kind of in the middle of you guys. But Eddie seems to have so many ties with them now, infrastructure-wise, moving forward. There's even, just as a side note, there are even like fears that his 2-fight deal with AJ and Fury, one of them might be in Saudi and one might be in the States to like keep ESPN happy. The UK guys are potentially looking at not even witnessing a historic all heavyweight affair in England. That's crazy. That's the power they have.
That's just a reminder that in boxing in particular, money talks and the money makes the decisions. Nothing else matters. Yes.
Talking about decisions, and you guys have shone a light on your podcast many a time on this boring 1,000 plus days saga for Dillian Whyte. He has a big fight coming up in just over a week at the pay-per-view card of Matchroom's Fight Camp, Saturday 22nd. It's looking like a good fight with Povetkin. First, can you discuss how you see this fight, and then we'll discuss what his options are after?
Yeah, I think that Dillian wins this fight fairly easily, to be honest. I mean, Povetkin's been around a long time. Dillian is a young, hungry lion. I think that Dillian beats him fairly easily, personally.
You think it's? I know your partner in crime, Teddy, has had the honor of coaching Povetkin at some point in the past. Does he ever make any suggestions that Alexander has a certain pedigree because he had a good background, or he's like a seasoned pro? In other words, I'm trying to bring that kind of Riley Fox. He's an old guy, but you're writing him off. A lot of people over here are like, they're worried about what happened with AJ and Ruiz. When Miller dropped out and AJ looked past Ruiz at Wilder, they're worried now that Dillian is looking past at his recently announced.
I don't think so, dude. Povetkin is a former world champion and a legitimate heavyweight. Ruiz, most people had never even heard of when he's going up against the reigning, like, unified champion. Yes. Those are two different scenarios. So I don't think for a second Dillian Whyte is looking past him. As a matter of fact, I think Dillian Whyte is probably focusing all his energy and attention on winning this fight in spectacular fashion so he can finally get the shot that he deserves.
I hope you're right. All of us over here hope you're right. He's been training. He's had an extended training camp. He's been in Portugal for like 5 months. The whole of
I know very well.
Yeah, I'm very aware. That he recently split with his long-term trainer, Mark Tibbs.
Yeah, be curious to see who his new trainer is after this fight.
He's a guy. His name's Javier Miller. He done some tutelage under the previous trainer of Derek Chisora in the UK.
Yeah, no. I know who he is. It'll be curious to see if he stays with that trainer after this fight, or if
from what we can see and the interviews that I've observed, that seems to be the relationship moving forward. I think he'd even been involved in camps previously as well. He was part of the team. So, okay, I mean, Dillian is, looking at this fight, but the whispers and the big news is that finally WBC have mandated him to fight the winner of Wilder Fury 3. Now, there are date problems with that due to no crowds over there. Bob Arum's made hints that they're going to push it back next year, which I think forced Maurizio Suleiman's hand to make an announcement about the mandatory. A lot of people are concerned that there's going to be some franchise champion nonsense going on. And I'm being honest, and I feel the same way you guys do about franchise champion. And I mean, that would be a travesty, right? If Dillian doesn't get his shot versus the actual champion, and they make him fight like an interim fight, that would be terrible, right? I mean, that's not what we want to see.
Yeah, not at all. But I wouldn't be surprised by any of that. I think when you're talking about the kind of money involved with a AJ versus the winner of this upcoming Wilder Fury fight, I don't think that they care about Dillian's feelings and that they'll pay him. They'll do whatever they have to do. But I can't imagine he gets a shot at the winner of that fight in anytime soon.
I mean, it seems all the common sense opinion is in that direction. What does that mean?
But who knows? Maybe they give him 5 to 10 million to wait for the winner, in which case, you know what? That's life-changing money. He should never have to work again if he manages his finances correctly.
True, but when you've waited 3 years already, allegedly, for a fight, Dillian's thing is he just wants to be the green belt champion. That's his thing. I mean, we can talk finances. Ultimately, if you've never been heavyweight champion and you've been waiting for so long for your shot, that's the dream, right? It's so close.
Yeah, but what we want and what we get are sometimes two different things. He can want whatever he wants. I'm just telling you what I think. I think that I think that they're going to basically give him the short end of the stick for as long as they can until the powers that be squeeze every single dollar that's to be squeezed out of this heavyweight three-man round-robin tournament.
So for the money people and for the networks, Dillian represents somewhat of a bump in the road. He could upset the apple cart hugely, and it's an unnecessary. Well, I'm saying
just like Ruiz did to Anthony Joshua.
Yeah. You know the problem though, Ken, logistically with this AJ Fury agreement, it's a 2-fight deal. So now you start talking about step aside money. Dillian potentially might not get in the ring until 2023 with one of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could go over all the what ifs, coulda, shoulda, wouldas if you want. I'm just telling you, I can't imagine a scenario in which he gets any of those 3 guys other than the loser of Fury Wilder anytime soon.
Okay, so just to summarize on that point, I've seen Fury beat Wilder twice, in my opinion. I've seen him edge the first fight, like you said about Triple G, Canelo won. I believe Fury won that. How clearly he won it is debatable, but he won it. He destroyed Wilder in February. I assume the third fight is going to go one of either of those ways. We never know. It's heavyweight boxing. How does a matchup between Wilder and Dillian Whyte look for a vacant title?
In terms of the matchup, the styles?
Yeah.
Any matchup with Wilder is interesting because I don't think he's the best boxer out there. I think that most of the top 5 to 10 guys are better boxers technically, but Wilder has that eraser, that one shot and you're out. And Fury just happens to be, I think, probably the most skilled boxer. You could make an argument that AJ is up there with him, but the point is they're just skilled enough to stay away, and they're the only guys that have been in there with Wilder that have been able to stay away. I mean, you look at what he did to Ortiz, who was beating him pretty good for several rounds, and then boom, one shot, see ya. So do I think Dillian Whyte? The question is, do you think Dillian Whyte, or do I think Dillian Whyte can outbox him for 12 rounds? That's a big task for anybody.
Or could he use his left hook and get him out of there?
I guess anything's possible in heavyweights, but I like him to. If Whyte were to win, I like him to outbox Wilder. If Wilder wins, he's going to catch him with the knockout shot with the right hand. That's just my opinion.
Agreed. No, I agree with all of that. I agree. I think Dillian could knock him out now that we've seen Wilder be put away and pressured. But I think the smart move would be to keep him at ranges and take care of business. Ken,
Yeah.
let's finish on another bit of good news. We're short on good news this year. It seems like Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell are going to be getting it on sometime soon. So
Yeah.
this kind of has a similar matchup to Lopez Loma in the sense that you've got an older guy who's been around the block, nowhere near as good as Loma, but you said yourself, Campbell gave Loma problems. I was at that fight. It was a chess match. But then you've got another...
It was a chess match early, and then in that last, like, 4 to 6 rounds, Loma beat the crap out of him.
He pulled away. Luke
figured him out, took him apart, broke him down, had him, like, almost stopped at the end of 1 or 2 of the late rounds. But that being said, I was surprised by Campbell. I honestly thought Loma was going to get him out of there before the 10th round. So I give Luke Campbell a lot of credit. Obviously, he's massively skilled, huge amateur pedigree. This is a massive test for Ryan Garcia. I mean, on paper, I would give a slight edge to Luke Campbell, but my heart is saying Ryan Garcia might be able to get it done. We haven't seen Ryan Garcia tested against anyone of that skill level or even close to that. But what we have seen Ryan Garcia do is exactly what he's supposed to do, and that's dispatch everyone that's put in front of him. So in that regard, I give credit to everyone. You know, you can say, oh, this guy is young, he's undeveloped, fair, but he's done everything he's supposed to do. You know, so I give massive credit to Ryan Garcia. This, to me, I mean, with the exception of Lomachenko, is probably one of the hardest fights Ryan Garcia could take right now. Maybe Devin Haney, but what's Devin Haney doing? Like, let's go. Fight someone that has, like, a pulse. Let's go. Get in there with someone real nice. So I'm curious to see what happens for both guys. Luke Campbell's kind of at a crossroads. I mean, unfortunately for him, he's a killer. He lost to the best guy in the world, in my opinion, at any weight. And, you know, he needs to rebound with a win, and what better way than to knock off a young, hungry prospect like Ryan Garcia and his 7 million Instagram followers.
We always mention the Instagram. The last interview I did, it was 6 million. It keeps growing.
Yep. Hey, credit to the kid, man. This is life. It's all part of the game. And I think it's crazy when people criticize the kid for his online presence and his social media fame, because even if you're fighting him, he's bringing in revenue. He sold out the Honda Center, 10,000 people. I was there. It was insane. It was like you know, slightly better than a club card, sold out to the rafters in a major stadium in Southern California. So I like Ryan Garcia. He's a really nice kid. People are always going to hate the handsome, brash young kid. He's good. He's good looking. He's rich. He's probably has his pick of women. He's driving a Lamborghini truck. Of course, people are going to hate him. You know, you've got some other fighters that are like hustling around, grinding, dying to get a shot. But you know what? Ryan Garcia is just out there doing his thing, handling his business. So I get why people are jealous of him, because there's no other reason to hate him. He's not a bad guy. He's not like out there like friggin' robbing people or assaulting women on camera. He's not drunk and driving. He's just a nice young kid. I mean, just turned 22 years old. I mean, dude, if we were all judged if our lives were under a microscope at 22, I think we'd all have a lot to be embarrassed by. So when you think about all the things that other 22-year-olds are getting up to, I love Ryan Garcia. He's an incredibly attractive young prospect, and I'm curious to see how he does against a superstar like Luke Campbell. I like Luke Campbell too. He seems like a nice kid.
If we just tie this whole thing up with what we spoke about Lopez Loma earlier, we assume Loma wins. Now, is there any preference as to who comes out of Campbell and Garcia? If it's Campbell, does Loma rematch him? Or is that
why would Loma fight a guy that he completely outclassed? The fight, I'm giving Campbell a lot of credit for being close early, but at the end of the day, they were in 2 different categories of fighter by the end of the 12th round. I mean, it was a blowout.
So I suppose my next question really is, if we have Loma up here off camera, who, in your opinion, apart from the belt holder Lopez, who even comes close to giving him a challenge? If Garcia knocks out Campbell, he's nowhere near Loma for me. But is he like the next young, hungry lion? You throw him in. Okay, you've dispatched Lopez. Now you try and you dispatch Garcia as well.
I don't think Golden Boy's looking to make that fight, even if he knocks out Campbell. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Garcia starts calling for the fight. But what I would love to see is Ryan Garcia fight Devin Haney next, assuming they both get through the next opponent. But if no matter how Garcia gets through Campbell, if he wins, which is a big if, like I said, on paper, I'd probably give an edge to Campbell. But if Haney and Ryan Garcia both win their next fights, I'd love to see them fight at the end of the year, early next year, with the winner getting a shot against Loma. And I think Loma beats either one of them.
So, Ken, you've said multiple times Loma's the best for you. I agree. For me, he's supreme. Out of all the other fighters that are like scrapping for second spot, if you had to pick, who is the second best in the division? Is it Campbell, who got outclassed, or is it Lopez?
I think we'll be able to tell after the Lomachenko fight. I mean, if you're going on what's happened to date, I'd say it's definitely Teofimo Lopez. I think people underestimate. I mean, he didn't look good against Tanaka. I think it was Tanaka, but they underestimate the kid's skill and athleticism. And just as a point of reference for his athleticism, when you see someone do like a standing backflip,
Yeah.
You could train your whole life and not be able to do it. Those kind of athletes are just born like that. Yeah. And Lomachenko is not that much different. This fight is full of intrigue. I think Loma beats him, but Teofimo can crack. And if he hits him with that shot he hit Comey with, although I don't think he does hit Loma like that. But look, Linares caught Loma and put him on his ass. So it's not completely out of the question that Teofimo is going to touch his chin.
Right? I mean, Lopez is my favorite, like, emerging star, along with Inoue. Like, I love Lopez.
He's a very nice kid. I think the father's enthusiasm kind of rubs off negatively at times on Teofimo. But Teofimo is a nice young kid and a sensible kid, and I think he's at times the dad puts him in a difficult position. But so I like Teofimo Lopez. I just don't think he wins this fight. I think
I like Teofimo. I love Loma. I've really liked our chat. I've been bugging you. I apologize. I've been hunting you down the whole of lockdown. You would have figured.
All I can tell you is I can't imagine how many people said no to you for you to get to me. I must have been down on the list.
No, Ken. I'm a very obscure. I hunt down people that I like to listen to. So
all right.
Podcast. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I'd love to do it again soon. As soon as I can get on a plane out to LA for another fight, I'll give you a shout. I can't quite keep up with your marathon splits. They're pretty impressive. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for making time for myself and Pep Talk UK. Any big things happening with the Fight with Teddy Atlas podcast?
No, we got some big guests coming up. I'll leave you with that cliffhanger, but some very relevant topical fighters with regards to some huge upcoming fights. We'll be doing a full breakdown of the Cormier-Miocic fight. Until boxing gives us something to talk about, we're going to keep talking about what is topical in the combat sports arena, and that's the UFC, who keeps putting on events as if there's no pandemic going on. Their fights don't suffer. Dana White has a unique advantage, but he's putting on events that people want to see and want to see pay-per-views. I mean, this is like third or fourth pay-per-view since the pandemic started, and I'm as excited about it as any fight that I've been to see. This would be like a top 5 fight of the year for me. Miocic and Cormier. Coincidentally, the strength coach we were in camp with, who lived with us for 8 weeks and for the Vosdik Better Biev, Chris Camacho, is the strength coach for Daniel Cormier. Also, he's been in camp with Triple G for the past several months. But Chris Camacho has been working with Cormier for years, so obviously Camacho, Teddy and I both very close with Chris Camacho, and so we'll be pulling for Daniel Cormier in that fight and Camacho strong camp. So, yeah, man. Looking forward to it. We got some good things, big things on the horizon, but Yeah.
Sounds good, Ken. Yeah, it's hard times, man. You've got to just keep the content going. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Listen, thank you again. I'll be in touch. And
All right, brother.
look after yourself and the family.
You got it, man. Take care. Thank you for the time.
Nice one. Say bye to Uncle Tony.
See you, Tony Blair. Later.